Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine and The Shark. Today is our 168th episode, and we're discussing the 2018 Muppet Babies episode, Sir Kermit the Brave. So, let's get things started.
I don't think this show is appropriate for children. I don't think this show is appropriate for anybody. Oh!
Oh,
Okay, that's great. Fiery Discourse, we talk about dinosaurs too. Fiery Discourse, we've done 150 episodes, it's true.
Over 150, actually.
True. Go ahead, Shark.
oh boy, those guys at the Fiery Discourse should know a lot about dragons. Yeah, they are experts at drag-on topics. Oh.
But to actually start the episode, the original Muppet Babies not only ended up spawning the entire spin-off baby craze of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, it also ended up being one of the most popular cartoons of the 1980s period. The original series used a lot of live-action clips, which made it really hard for it to be rerun on television or released on home video because of this, because getting the rights for every little snippet of footage they used would be nearly impossible, sadly. In 2018, a reboot of the show was made, created by Mr. Warburton, who previously created another, very different show, codenamed Kids Next Door. And it's funny because in Kids Next Door, they actually spoof Muppet Babies. And now, Rainbow Monkeys, then Rainbow Monkey Babies, then Rainbow Monkey Baby Teens. He went from parodying the Muppet Babies to working on it, so that's pretty interesting.
Full circle.
Yeah, and it's funny to think that before K&D, he also worked on Pepper Ann. So we went from Pepper Ann, Disney, to K&D, which is Cartoon Network, WB, and then we're back to Disney again with Muppet Babies. So yeah, kind of full circle on the whole Disney thing.
The show actually features a wide variety of really iconic voice actors voicing all the Muppets, as well as a new Muppet, Summer Penguin. Although they're not in this episode, Statler and Waldorf are regulars on the show. They're the next-door neighbors of the Muppet Babies, and just in case you're worried, they actually do heckle the babies, like they do the adult Muppets.
Mm.
The show begins with a newer version of the iconic Muppet Babies theme song, showing the Muppet Babies running along and playing before we get a lineup of them. I do like this bit where Kermit breaks the fourth wall after Fozzie's verse, saying, "Hey, that doesn't even rhyme!" to the audience.
Yeah, and hearing this theme in particular, it kind of reminded me of that one theme of a bit called the PC Babies from South Park, and I think this in particular was where South Park got the idea for it. Props to them for doing that and making a satire of essentially a satire.
Like the original, Nanny stops them to ask them what they're doing, and here's the thing that is really weird. The Nanny in this show is shown to be the daughter of the Nanny from the original Muppet Babies, which means that either these are the babies of the original Muppets, making them Muppet Babies babies, or this is some weird kind of time loop thing where Muppets age differently than humans.
Yeah, I mean, Family Guy also tackled the concept a little bit. Let's just say the line, "Kill their pain," and go from there.
After we see various shots of them in imaginary scenarios, we then get the title card of the show. We then get the title card of the episode, as Kermit pops up as a knight, reading the title. I do like this touch. The fact that they made him go, "Yay!" after he reads it is a really great touch.
Yeah.
The light then turns off in the title card, as Kermit instantly becomes afraid of the dark before it turns back on and he's relieved again. The episode itself begins with the Muppet Babies all playing with toys, pretending that they're trying to save a princess. Miss Piggy says that after she's rescued, she'll save the king, the queen, the horses, and Animal, freeing Animal from a cage of blocks. Animal is voiced by D. Bradley Baker, which really is just perfect casting there. I mean, he's voiced Animal so many times, might as well have him voice the Animal.
Indeed,
Yeah.
yeah. Seriously, this guy's dynamic range is legendary. We got Klaus from American Dad, the Bad Batch, and pretty much every single clone from the Clone Wars series. And we got Animals. So, yeah, I think we got our Bradley Baker quota for the month.
Nanny then comes in, looking for something in the playroom. In this episode, she's wearing tights with images of dragons on them, and this obviously can mean only one thing. She's a dragoness, and that's the reason we never see Nanny's face in the entire show.
I'll take it. Accept it.
Kind of like Reverse Mermaid, except top half is dragon, bottom half is human.
Or maybe she's full dragon, and just the outfit makes her look human.
Even better, even better. Gonzo, voiced by Ben Diskin. And I want to point this out because this version of Gonzo sounds more like number 2 with a slightly sped up voice compared to how Gonzo sounds. Gonzo asks Nanny if she's looking for something, knowing that he's been looking for a bowling ball made out of pizza crusts for weeks. I do like that they kept Gonzo a little weirdo. That is something that's always good to see. Nanny says that she's looking for her favorite sweater with the polka dots on it, saying that she wore it in arts and crafts, then goes into the art closet. A strange noise is then heard as Summer Penguin, who is actually voiced by Jessica DeCiccio, who is best known for being Flame Princess in Adventure Time, asks what the noise was. Gonzo suggests that it's an elephant learning how to tap dance, as Kermit notes that it's probably Nanny looking for the sweater. Go ahead, Shark.
Look, kids, you don't want to go with the noise. He's gonna throw bombs at you before ruining your pizza.
Gonzo will never get his pizza crust bowling ball back now.
Now that we've seen the characters in motion, it's kind of weird how this new animation style works and doesn't work at the same time. For some of these characters, it looks great, especially like Kermit and Gonzo and Fozzie. They look like actual Muppets. The animation style has basically recreated them perfectly. For others like Miss Piggy, Animal, and the new Penguin Girl, it looks a little bit off. Like they don't look quite right. So it's really weird how it kind of gets some and doesn't others.
I don't know, maybe because of the design? Go ahead, Angron.
I mean, an argument can be made for Summer. She more or less looks a little bit like a Muppet, even if it's not completely noticeable. Yeah, the style doesn't always complement her like it does Kermit, Fozzie, and Gonzo, but even I gotta admit that there are a few spots here and there where she does shine through as a Muppet a little more than others.
Which actually brings up something very interesting about Summer that we'll get to at the end of the episode. Gonzo then yells that when Nanny's done teaching the elephant, if she could help to teach him how to tap dance. Summer says that it's not an elephant. It's probably a dragon in there, with another loud roar being heard, and all the babies are terrified of this. Gonzo says that it can't be a dragon, as dragons don't like art. Wow, Gonzo. Wow. I thought we were past perpetuating negative stereotypes like that, but here you go again. A dragon can't like art because they're a dragon. Shame on you. Hashtag cancel Gonzo the Great.
A caretaker dragon theory confirmed!
Dragons can create art. Just ask the princess from Reversal of the Heart. She has another short where she paints.
Fozzie jokes that they do love music because they have so many scales, and then does, of course, Waka Waka at the end of it. So it's actually voiced by Eric Bauza, who is currently the voice of Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and pretty much just a whole slew of iconic characters. This guy is incredible, and he does a very good Fozzie Bear voice.
Yeah, we also tackled him a little bit when we tackled the Puss in Boots episode, but he was also Rash from the 2020 Battletoads game too, so not as diverse as the Bradley Baker, but yeah, pretty diverse too.
The roaring noise is heard again as Fozzie realizes that there really is a dragon in the closet, and Summer says that Nanny just went in there. Miss Piggy says that the brave adventurers are on their way as all the babies start to cheer. We cut to them going through a toy box, as Fozzie says that he's an archer who shoots rubber chicken arrows. Cheese Sandwich would be more than proud of this use of boneless. Miss Piggy asks how that will stop the dragon, as Fozzie says that with it, he'll have them laughing in no time. Gonzo points out that Summer can scare off the dragon with her silly pointy hat, as she points out that she's a wizard with a magic wand. Kermit asks Gonzo what he is, as Gonzo says that he is a veterinarian. The other babies don't know what that is, as he explains that he's an animal doctor, proudly saying how, "Did you know there are over 19 billion types of chickens in the world?"
Works for him.
Kermit then asks Miss Piggy if she's a princess, as she gets angry at this, yelling how she's a fairy queen. I like how they kept Miss Piggy in character with how quickly she gets upset at things. Animal pulls out a bat from the toy box, saying how he is a troll. Obviously, we know what's going to happen with Animal. Animal troll! Animal going to post flame bait on Electric Mayhem forum and watch arguments spiral out of control. Animal laugh at others suffering.
So, in short, we have Kermit as the warrior, Gonzo as the cleric, Fozzie as the ranger, Summer as the wizard, Miss Piggy as, I guess, a warlock, and Animal as the barbarian. So our sect is complete. Now he needs a sorcerer to really deal some damage.
Miss Piggy says that Sir Kermit the Brave will lead them, as she gives him a plastic sword, while Kermit looks uneasy about this. Kermit then opens up the closet door and is very nervous about being dark in there. This isn't your average everyday darkness. This is advanced darkness.
Well, they could always find a Koopa Troopa and persuade them to give them a light.
Yeah.
Kermit says that Fozzie should go first, saying about how bears love caves, as Fozzie says that it's damp in there, and frogs love the damp. Kermit looks nervous at her opening the door wide and letting everyone else in. As they all enter, Miss Piggy asks where Kermit is as he's trying to sneak away. Miss Piggy says that they need him and pulls him inside, saying how they need their fearless leader. As they go deeper into the closet, Summer notes how dark it is in there, as Kermit suggests that they just leave. Summer says that she's a wizard, casting a spell to make it light in the closet, as it now looks more like a cave compared to a closet, going into the baby's imagination. Kermit stares at his glow-in-the-dark sword, asking if there's a way to make it brighter before, in a really funny touch, he actually turns to the camera and makes his sheesh face, which, if you haven't seen it, it's one of Kermit's funniest expressions, and I'm glad they were able to replicate it here. As they walk through the cave, the roars get louder, as Fozzie is afraid of the dragon being hungrier and hungrier by the second. Summer tells the others to watch out for traps, as the dragon probably set them off to stop them. Kermit then steps on a switch, saying that he found one, as Gonzo says that he wasn't supposed to do that. In probably the funniest moment of the episode, we cut to footage of the boulder from Raiders of the Lost Ark, as the babies all run away from it. This is a reference to how the original Muppet Babies used live-action stock footage all the time, and I'm sorry, the way they're implemented in this shot, it looks kind of crude, but I think it's supposed to.
Yeah, the first time I saw this was like a clip of like Scooter in like a courtroom, where they eventually go into a room where there's a bunch of Skeksis. That's quite a choice. But here it feels a little more involved, like they're actually in the Indiana Jones set, which is honestly a nice little touch.
Well, this cut to Indiana Jones works way better than the last time Disney tried it with Chicken Little.
So the original series is really hard to find anywhere because it uses so much live action footage. So let's do that for the reboot. Oh wait, Disney owns everything. Never mind, we're fine.
Yep.
As they run away from the boulder, Kermit and Miss Piggy ask what they could do, as Animal then uses his club to swat the boulder away. At least it wasn't Holder's boulder, because then the Pie family would be really upset at him for that. As they all cheer, Summer tells them to go onward to find Nanny, only for Miss Piggy to wonder where Kermit is. Kermit is frantically running away from the dark as he trips over himself, rolling to the end of the passage. The others all catch up with him, as Fozzie notes that he found the dragon's castle, which looks like it's made out of cardboard. Obviously, the dragon is a big Nintendo Labo fan. Gonzo asks how Kermit knew about that, as Kermit tries to stammer out a response, only for Miss Piggy to say, because heroes know about these things.
Coming back to the castle, either she is a Nintendo Labo fan, or she paid Ed and Eddie to build her city/castle.
Summer asks how they'll all scale the castle, as Gonzo says, don't look at me, I'm just a veterinarian, and then asks if any of them need a flea collar, or another good joke. Fozzie says, when in doubt, tie a rubber chicken to an arrow, and then uses it as a rope to climb up. The others, aside from Kermit, all scale the castle, and note how dark it is. Kermit is afraid at this, saying how Sir Kermit the Brave isn't feeling quite so brave right now.
Okay, back to the whole D&D thing. Honestly, given the semi-versatility of Fozzie's weaponry, it could be a callback to the Ranger from the D&D cartoon. I don't know if it's intentional or not. It probably isn't. It's just probably coincidence, but that's what I got when I saw him doing that.
A reptilian shadow comes over him as he nervously quivers, as it turns out to be a dragoness. Now, this dragoness has a really unique design. She looks as though she is made out of cloth with button nostrils, and you can really feel how the animation on her, it does feel a little bit weird, especially when compared to the actual Muppet Babies and Nanny themselves.
Yeah, like, to put this into perspective, she looks like she would fit in perfectly in, like, Yoshi's Woolly World or Kirby's Epic Yarn, games like that had this sort of, like, felt design to them, which is a really nice design choice. The problem is she does look really out of place in the rest of the animation style. It's kind of jarring.
Yeah, I also think that the whole 2D aesthetic with her is a little out of place in this series as a whole. Don't get me wrong, in something like a story time or maybe like a 2D flashback or a puppet show, I think it would work a little better. But here, it's not completely out of place, but it doesn't exactly feel like the sort of thing that should be with the 3D image of Kermit.
Yeah, I agree, and I kinda get why they went with that, the whole imagination thing. Maybe that's how Kermit is like feeling how she feels out of place as well. But one thing about her design is that when we first see her and how we see in other shots, when we see her from the front, it just looks weird.
Yeah, it's like that meme of My Little Pony characters drawn from the front. It really does seem like that with her. Kermit then screams as the Dragoness screams right back at him, or the Dragoness then cowers, one asking why he's yelling at her. The Dragoness is actually voiced by Rachel Bloom, who also voiced Autumn Blaze in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, another character we're going to talk about in the near future, so look out for that. Kermit says that he was yelling at her because she was roaring at him. She says how she wasn't roaring, but she was crying as she's afraid of the dark. She says that she was playing with her friends and fell asleep, only for her to wake up when the sun came down. The Dragoness says that she's too afraid to leave, as Kermit says that he's also afraid of the dark. Kermit then introduces himself to the Dragoness, who says that her name is Dot. Kermit is curious about her name, and she says that her real name is Belladonna von Sweaterhelm, which is a pretty good gag, but no one except her mom calls her that when she's angry. She asks Kermit why he's down there, as he says he was on an adventure with his friends, but then he got lost. He then says that they're in a dark place, before knowing that when he's with her, he's not as afraid. Kermit then says that they can go together, as Dot says that if she gets scared, he'll be there for her, and if he gets scared, she'll be there for him. Obviously, this is going to lead to an alternate universe where, instead of Miss Piggy, Kermit is going to grow up to date her instead, which will probably be better for everyone. Number one, Dot won't be as abusive to him as Miss Piggy is, and number two, I would really like to see the Muppet Show tackle Dragons in Space.
Yep.
Dot says that sounds great and accidentally roars at him. Kermit asks if she'll help him, as she then asks him to climb up onto her back. Kermit notes how he's never ridden on a dragon before, as she asks if he's ready. Kermit is afraid, but then quickly gets over it, saying that he has to rescue his friends no matter what, as they take to the sky. As they do so, Kermit and Dot sing a song together called What's So Scary About the Dark, which is basically why you shouldn't be afraid of the dark, how there's nothing in the dark that isn't the light, which is a really good lesson for... I wish they let Rachel Bloom sing a little bit more, but you can't have everything.
Yeah, and all things considered, it's definitely in character for a Muppet sort of show to have like a musical number. It'll feel a little bare without it, you know?
I was going to say, I do appreciate that they actually kept that from the original show, that there are songs in this version. And for this being the very first segment of the very first episode, it's already starting off with a surprisingly decent song. So kudos to the show. They seem to have known what they were doing.
Kermit and Dot, they actually have really good chemistry and harmony together. It's surprising just how well written this song is. As Matt said, it really does feel like something you'd hear in the original show. As they sing, they fly past the Aurora Borealis. Obviously, they actually made their way to Skinner's kitchen. Seymour, the house is on fire! No, Mother, it's just a frog riding a dragon. They fly past the moon in an ET shot, as well as go past an amusement park at night. Eventually, they then find the castle as Dot lands with a notable impact. The others see Kermit and are in shock, as Miss Piggy threatens to karate chop Dot. Another pretty good reference there. Kermit tells her and the others that Dot is their friend, telling them how she is afraid of the dark.
Classic Miss Piggy. I was resorting to violence.
Yeah.
Yep, even at this age, she couldn't help herself. Fozzie says that when he's afraid of the dark, he tells himself a funny joke, and Summer says that when she's afraid, she cuddles with her blanket. Animal cuddles with his teddy bear, as Gonzo says that, I whistle while juggling Brussels sprouts, much to the confusion of everybody else. Oh, Gonzo, never change, except for your hatred of dragons not doing art. That I'm still holding against you.
Yeah.
Dot says that they're also brave and smart and that she'll use their ideas if she ever gets scared again. Fozzie tells her that Kermit isn't afraid of the dark at all, as Kermit admits that he is. He then says that, like Dot, he'll try to use the same ideas to prevent himself from getting afraid of the dark. Gonzo then points out the obvious solution. You could just turn on the light! As Animal then does so. I do kind of love that. It's kind of such an anti-climax. It actually is intentional, I believe, and it is pretty funny. After Animal does turn on the light, the babies are brought back to reality. Dot is no longer there and is now just a sweater draped over a vacuum cleaner. Fozzie asks where Dot went, as Summer points out that they found Nanny's sweater, which looks like Dot with the polka dot felt design. Despite this, Dot would actually become a reoccurring character on the show, appearing in at least 10 episodes, including the finale, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Indeed. Perhaps Dot is the actual draconic part of Nanny's whole draconic being, and when she puts it on... I think we know where this is going.
I'm just saying we never see the two together in the same room.
That is also true. The group then asks where Miss Nanny is as she shows up, happy that they found her sweater. As she puts it on, she asks why they were playing in the dark for so long, which I had to point out, Nanny, you were just standing in the closet in the dark for at least 10 minutes? What were you doing?
Yeah, like, what was she doing in there?
Kermit says that the dark isn't so bad and then turns off the lights, saying how he's Sir Kermit the Brave. All of them, with the classic cartoon trope of only their eyes being visible, all run out of the room. The episode ends with Dot's eyes being visible as she laughs and breathes out smoke before closing them. And yeah, that is actually it for the episode. That was surprisingly shorter than usual. Muppet Babies 2018 was very positively received. As time went on, they ended up bringing in a lot more Muppet characters, such as the Swedish Chef and Sam the Eagle and Rizzo the Rat, which I have to appreciate that they did try to have more Muppets in the Muppet Babies. The original is great, don't get me wrong, but this one actually has more Muppet-related material. And an interesting fact, in this episode, you can actually see pictures of both Scooter and Skeeter from the original show, as well as Phenomena and the two weird pink Birdo-like things on the wall. So that's a pretty cute reference.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty nice seeing a show like this give out to the source material in a way that doesn't make it feel like they're just over-pandering or like just giving it a little nod and wink without any sort of build-up. It's nice that it can do that and still be a pretty enjoyable, if not past kindergarten show.
The finale episode, because the show actually did end up getting a finale, was the Muppet Baby Show, where they literally do the Muppet Show with all the sketches. They do the veterinarian's hospital, they do the Swedish Chef, they do Muppet Labs, they do a rock song from the Electric Mayhem. It really feels like the Muppet Show episode that we never got. It's actually shocking. And the reason I point this out, because Dot actually appears in the episode in one of the archways singing the theme song. So that's more than official confirmation that she is a real Muppet.
Yeah, also on the subject of a Muppet Show that we never got, it's the Muppet Show that never was.
One thing I also want to point out is that an adult version of Summer Penguin was actually to be a part of the Muppet lineup from here on in. She was going to be the art director of the Muppet Show in that, and they even had a design for her as an adult, still wearing the sweater in a cute touch. But here's the weird issue. For some bizarre legal reason, she cannot be used by the Muppet crew. It's one of those weird things because technically it's from the Disney Junior department. If they wanted to use her in the Muppet Show, they would have to go through all this kind of legal red tape, but it's just so weird. You're the same company. You can't let them use Summer Penguin? I mean, I would rather have her and Dot as a part of the Muppet staple than Walter, I'll say that much.
That kind of makes me think of Boshi from Mario RPG, which is kind of weird because he's technically a character from both Nintendo and Square because the character was made by Square, but it's a Yoshi, so Nintendo could also own them, but they don't, so if one wants to use them, they have to ask permission to another company, but because the other company doesn't really own the character, they can't really give permission. It's weird like that.
Yeah, and here I thought the Wuzzles was the weirdest Disney legal loophole I had to deal with.
I personally think Muppet Babies is really sweet for what it is, and if you have like really, really little kids, you can show them Sesame Street and also this as a way to introduce them to the Muppets as a whole, although I probably saw the Muppet Show at a really young age, so worked for me. That's going to lead to the question of the week, which is, what is your favorite Muppet character? And by Muppet character, we are referring to characters from the Muppet staple. Other Jim Henson characters like Labyrinth or Dark Crystal, I think are going a little bit too off-kilter for the answer, so sadly they will not be in consideration, but regardless. My favorite Muppet, I have two choices really. Number one is Beaker, because every single time Muppet Labs ever happened, every single time this guy got slapstick happen to him, I would laugh and laugh so hard. It is so well timed that it is just amazing. Not only that, they actually gave him other bits on the show which are really funny. For example, the part where him, the Swedish Chef, and Animal all try to form a trio of a band, which is really funny. There's a part where he shows up to sing the song Feelings and everyone boos him. And Muppet Labs in general is really, really great. But what's interesting is, in the first season, Beaker did not exist. It was just Dr. Bunsen doing all the experiments on himself and getting hurt, which is funny but it's funnier with Beaker compared to Dr. Bunsen, who's the straight man. My second choice of my favorite Muppet is going to be someone who I just mentioned a couple of seconds ago, and that is going to be the Swedish Chef, because these segments are absolutely hysterical. If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube and search up Swedish Chef, and you can just watch it for hours and hours and just laugh hysterically. The way they do it is so fascinating, with how the actual chef is a puppet, but his hands are real-life human hands. So it's two puppeteers. Originally it was Jim Henson and Frank Oz. They're working in tandem together. It is just so incredible. It really is impressive stuff, with all the things that chef does, throwing all the ingredients around, throwing, for example, the kitchen appliances. It is so funny. And yeah, those are going to be my two choices for my favorite Muppet. It's going to be Beaker and it's going to be the Swedish Chef. Both of which I just noticed doesn't actually speak any intelligible English, so that probably helps with their appeal as well. But anyway, let's see. Angron, what would your pick be?
To further clarify what we mean by Muppets, it's stuff that has been shown or has been associated with the Muppets at some point. There are two overall examples of that, which is Sesame Street, aforementioned, and Fraggle Rock, to a lot of people's surprise. Don't get me wrong, I like both. They're pretty enjoyable, but sad to say I grew up with Sesame Street a little more than Fraggle Rock. I like Fraggle Rock. It's pretty cool. It's adorable. Not as educational as something like Sesame Street, but so yeah, we're going down to good old that certain block of New York to find my favorite quote-unquote Muppet from there. Yeah, there's quite a bit to choose from. There's Elmo, the darling little diva that he is. There's Bert and Ernie, who, let's be honest, are absolutely one of the earlier subtle examples of a gay couple, without actually being gay. And then there's Cookie Monster, who would be my pick if it wasn't for the fact that as of late he's done less cookies and a little more other foods. Like, don't get me wrong, that's not a bad thing, making someone a little more diverse than just simply doing cookies, but I'm sorry, you give me a guy called Cookie Monster and you do anything other than cookies, yeah, not my guy. There's also Oscar the Grouch, who, let's be honest, his whole deal with being a grouch on the outside, having a sweet, the Flash Gordon ripoff, no joke, trash Gordon. There's so much to honestly love about a lot of these characters. However, the choice I'm going to be going with is one guy who's just there to vibe. And that guy would be, honestly, the biggest of the bunch, ironically named Big Bird. Okay, let's be honest. The Reluctant Dragon is a lot less subtle than him, but there's some stuff there for him as well, let's be honest. But that's not fully why I like him above the others. Big Bird is just there to just vibe. He's just got this aura about him. He's just looking around. He's just curious about everything. And, like, his voice is just, it's honestly pretty amazing. Also, he was on a episode of the Muppet Show at one point. Same deal with the other Sesame Street characters. Man, he's one of the few guys who has actively survived Miss Piggy. He unintentionally owned Miss Piggy without even knowing that Miss Piggy was out for his head. It was that hilarious. And stuff like that is honestly why I like him. He also has a nice little relationship with Snuffleupagus. There's just a lot of depth to him in spite of being on the surface just a charming little bird just doing a bunch of stuff. I also saw his movie where he sung that one depressing as hell song where he's like, I'm just a bluebird. Yeah, it was. I can get why a lot of people and a lot of kids in particular did not take that well. I have no other choice other than to pick Big Bird as my pick for my favorite Muppet.
Those are great choices right there. You know, I could definitely see why, because again, they're just so iconic characters that it really is iconic. Over here, we didn't have Big Bird. We actually had first Caponata, who was a chicken. We then had the most famous of the Muppets over here, Espinete, who was a giant pink hedgehog. And later we had Blukey, who was some weird giant blue cat. Espinete by far is the most iconic character. But yeah, just in general, the Sesame Street walk-around characters are so well made that it's so impressive. So let's see, Matt, what would your pick be?
As the old man of the group, I feel like you guys know where this is going. I have no choice but to go with Statler and Waldorf.
Yep.
Knew it.
The older I get, the more I identify with these two old men. even as a kid, I loved all of their jabs and pokes at everything that was going on. But as I've gotten later on in years, I have just found myself going, guys were my inspiration, weren't they? Is this why I'm so snarky? They have my sense of humor. The kind of poking and prodding is what I like to do. Just they always have the best jokes. It felt like Statler and Waldorf were, while Kermit was the main character, and a lot of like characters like Gonzo or Fozzie were probably personal favorites of some. Statler and Waldorf felt like the characters that were the personal favorites of the whole crew, and they put everything into making those guys have the best lines and the best bits of any Muppet material.
Yeah, that is a great choice right there because again, they have really such funny rapport between them, and they are icons of the Muppets. They have appeared in pretty much every single Muppet related medium to date. At Muppets Tonight, they were watching the show on TV. They appeared in all of the movies in increasingly hilarious ways, and even in the newer one, they're still on the internet making fun of them, which, I'm gonna be honest, is pretty much the perfect place for them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's see, Shark, what would your pick be?
Well, you already mentioned them, but it's actually gonna be Beaker because, yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff about that guy. The design, the way that he only talks like, me, 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 and all of that. How he's always the one suffering because of every single experiment and all of that. It's just great. Like, I remember seeing the 4D show at one of the parks, and like everything that happened to him was hilarious every time he was on the screen. And yeah, like you can tell he's kind of an iconic character because he's always everywhere. I even remember like there's a Family Guy cutaway where Peter says something like, "Wow, this is like the time I was the assistant to one that scientist," and it shows Peter all flat like a beaker going me 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 as well, and it's like. Yeah, honestly, you did say a lot of what makes him great, so I'm just gonna keep my answer short. But yeah, Beaker is like probably the funniest of the Muppets. Yep.
Yep, that's another great choice right there. Because again, he really is just so hysterical, and of course, I think the meeping voice helps. And even in a lot of the movies, he really has a lot of great moments, especially in one of the lesser Muppet movies. It's a very merry Muppet Christmas, which is basically It's a Wonderful Life. There is one really hysterical joke because we get to see the universe where Kermit the Frog was never born and everything is terrible. We get to see alternate universe Beaker, and he is incredibly, incredibly muscular, and he still talks like meep, 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 and he's a bouncer. And that is
Yeah.
the best part of the movie by far.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, really great choice in there. And yeah, as a whole, the Muppets really are characters who are going to remain iconic for an incredibly long time. And hopefully, with the success of the Muppet Show special that just came out, maybe we'll get it greenlit to get a new Muppet Show because everyone's been asking that for decades, and it'd be great if we actually got it for once.
Yeah.
Now it is time for the patent pending Dragoness Scale, where we are going to rank Dot the Dragon. This one's going to be interesting because the design, I do like, again, as Matt said, the inspiration of, for example, Kirby's Epic Yarn and Yoshi's Woolly World. She seems like she stepped right out of that. That is a great touch right there. And Rachel Bloom's performance is fantastic. Like, if we were just going on voice alone, she would get a really, really high score. But there's just something about the way that she moves. She feels like a 2D Flash character plopped in this CGI show. And it really looks a little awkward every single time she moves. That's not enough to really give her a low score, but I do like, again, how she's a reoccurring character. This isn't just one and done, and the fact that she does appear at the end of the Muppet Baby Show, I really do like that portion. With that being said, I'm probably going to give her, I just am feeling a little generous today, I might actually give her an 8, just because, again, she has a really great design and a really great voice, and I do like what they did with her. Let's see, Angron, what would you give her?
I'm probably gonna have to go a little lower with a 6 out of 10. Don't get me wrong, she's not bad, and she definitely has a charming presence throughout the entirety of the show. And the episode in particular definitely gets that across as well, especially helping Kermit conquer his whole thing with the dark, to which I can relate. But yeah, like you said, the whole 2D characters who are 3D with characters that are 2D, and in any other scenario and when done right, it absolutely would work a lot better. But here, I mean, it works well enough, so I can't really say that it's a bad idea, but I can't exactly say that it's an idea that was well executed here. It was executed good enough, but good enough isn't exactly what the Muppet Show is all about, in my opinion. That's not always a bad thing, but it doesn't really mean that it gets a character like her anything higher than a 6, in my opinion.
I understand why, because again, with the animation, that definitely is a big deal breaker for a lot of people. So let's see, Matt, what would you give her?
I'm going with you with an 8 for this one. Normally, I find that my ratings are the design is great, and I end up giving that a 5, and it's the personality or the screen time that ends up lowering it down. This is one of those rare instances where it's the inverse. I actually did like her personality. I liked her characterization. The song that they had was actually surprisingly good. Like, there was nothing wrong with the character, and she had enough screen time in her segment that I felt that a great way of displaying the character. The issue was the design and particularly the animation style they went with. If she was in any other property, if she was in her own thing, like in her own world where characters looked like this. Weirdly enough, I think if she was in the Trolls universe, she would look more fitting. But in this show, with this animation style, she looks so jarring. It's kind of painful and it takes you a bit out for the character. And that's why she's at an 8.
Yeah, I can kind of see why, because again, as you said, she looks like she comes from a completely different series. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's definitely a noticeable thing.
She kind of looks like she's from one of the better end of content farms, but I don't think that was really the intent. But yeah, even I gotta admit that's a little off. Also, I might bump mine up from a 6 to a 7.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go with an 8 because there's a lot of good stuff with this character. Like, she's a recurring character, not someone that just shows up once and then never again. So, compared to other Dragonesses, that actually gives her a bigger score. The voice and the personality are fantastic. As you said, if it was only that alone, it would be a perfect 10. And the idea of, being like a sweater kind of dragon, like Epic Yarn, Woolly World, is such a creative concept. I love that idea so much. The main problem comes again from the art style I kinda gave here. It does look kinda weird compared to everything else. And as I mentioned it, her design, the shots we see him from the front, they just look off. And again, it's not something that happens once. It happens quite, not often, but it happens enough times that it will get jarring. So it does have those issues with the design. But other than that, everything else, honestly, it's great. It's almost perfect. She's gonna be an 8 out of 10 for me.
Nice, nice. So, yeah, overall, it seems like our consensus that Dot is a great, great character, just kind of in the wrong show. But with that being said, I'm glad she was made at all, and hopefully if Disney untangles this weird red tape nonsense they've got, we can get both Summer Penguin and Dot the Dragon on the Muppet Show. Again, I'd sure like them over Walter.
Yep.
That's going to be it for this week. If you have any questions, or if you want to tell us what you think Dot should do on The Muppet Show, feel free to email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us at Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Visit us at Blue Sky at Blue Sky Fiery Discourse. Be sure to subscribe to the Fiery Discourse YouTube channel and subscribe to the playlist. Leave a comment, like and hit the bell icon. Any all comments are appreciated. Next week, we are going to be talking about the 1990 Disney movie, The Rescuers Down Under.
Hell yeah.
From one Disney property to another, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this one because this is right at the beginning of the Disney Renaissance and first ever sequel that Disney did aside from Three Caballeros. And yeah, overall, I'm really looking forward to talking about that, especially a certain lizard because we have a lot to talk about her.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be it for this week. And until then, thank you all so much for listening and take care.
Yep, later, y'all.
Cheers.
Peace out.
Adios. See you all next week.